to Debo the Don TV. When you have a moment, like, comment, and subscribe. Share as well. Today I want to talk about Nipsey Hussle. Who Nipsey Hussle is? Nipsey Hussle is actually a rapper from Los Angeles, West, South Central Los Angeles. He's from the Bryanhurst area. A member of the Rolling 60 Crip, or he was. Aside from that, aside from being a rapper, he was a businessman. He owned various pieces of real estate. He had basically turned the Crenshaw district that he grew up in into a brand. So the store that he started, Marathon, sold a lot of title Crenshaw apparel. So this guy, went from being, an independent rapper into a mogul, and he did it independently. But my first encounter with Nipsey Hussle, I want to say, was probably around 2006, 2007. And I remember I was watching the show on BET called BET Uncut. It used to come on at 3 o'clock at night. And his video, Hussle in the House, was one of the last videos to be featured on that particular episode. And I was like halfway asleep, but I don't know, for some reason, like, to hear the beat, it woke me up. And I heard the beat, I said, man, it sounds like Crisscross Jump. He looks like Snoop Dogg, but he's rapping over a crisscross beat, and it was just gangster. But then I think what caught my attention was that I'm coming straight out of Slauson, a crazy motherfucker named Nipsey. I'm turned up because I grew up in the 60s. And when he said that, I was like, damn, I'm like, this kid is hard. And, but, that last verse, if you listen to Hussle in the House, he's basically giving you, a vivid demonstration of, a retaliation event. He's like, I promise I'll be out lurking with the pump, gooned up, chopper in the trunk, ready to hop out and do my motherfucking stuff. So I'm like, okay, this dude's a real one. He's cut from that cloth, and I could relate because, being a kid from the streets, having that passive, being part of a street organization, I was like, okay, I rocks with this dude. And I already had like a natural ear for, the West Coast. So that right there, I immediately became a fan of his. And I would say, over the years, anyone that knew me, where I lived at, Stamford, Connecticut, Brooklyn, I'm gonna put a picture up. You'll see my cutlass. I had a cutlass with hydraulics. I used to play Nipsey Hussle in the House all the time. That was like one of my favorite songs, and still to this day it is. But then, as time evolved, I still, I followed his career. And I would say from 2006, 2007, it was like this guy was just getting better and better. I saw him on a movie with Bone Thugs and Harmony, and then I saw him in a movie with Gilly the Kid and Ving Rhames. Then I guess he was being managed by Steve Lobel, who is a manager of Bone Thugs and Harmony. I think Steve Lobel actually used to manage Run DMC, if I'm not mistaken. He's from Queens. He's a Caucasian guy, but he's a hip hop. I would say he's one of the OGs as far as being part of the culture. But Nipsey Hussle was attached to some very significant projects during that time, and then he wound up getting a record deal with Epic. But what I want to get into now, what I found to be most admiring about Nipsey Hussle is he took his career into his hands. And as I mentioned just now, as he was signed to Epic, but things didn't fall through, is because, he always talked about wanting ownership. And, when you hear ownership, most people don't really grasp the concept of ownership. And him being an artist, he didn't want to feel like a commodity. And, he felt like, hey, if we're the people who create the culture, we're the spokespeople of the culture, we should have more than say so. We should have ownership of the culture. We shouldn't get, pennies of the dollar and then, have someone cheer for us to go and, tap our feet and slap our hands and smile. No, this isn't the 1950s where, artists were putting out great music, but they were being marginalized and still being treated, less than, the standard of perfection that they exhibited through their music. So, he struck a chord with me when he said that, and he got the attention of many people beyond the music community. He got the attention of a lot of these execs because he had a very accelerated business mind, but he didn't have a commercialized business look. This wasn't a guy who went to, I don't even think he finished high school. And, his father was an immigrant from Africa. He didn't come from a household of connections. His father wasn't part of a country club, so he didn't have those connections. This is a kid from the streets who used to gangbang, sold drugs, hustled in front of the plaza that he later would go on to own. But he talked about wanting ownership, and it was very difficult for him to get it because there were so many other obstacles in his personal life. But through trial and error, he kind of created a manual through his music. His music was basically like the soundtrack to, from the streets to the executive suites. It was like a rags to riches story. And he's one of the most important people right now of this generation because he figured out that combination code that many of us who do come from disenfranchised communities, we don't have access to. We don't know about ownership. We don't know about the importance of owning your culture and securing your future through ownership. He's the reason why I wanted to start this YouTube channel, is because I found myself, here it is, I'm a guy who's from the culture, I was born into the culture, spokesperson from the culture, but I didn't own anything in it. And there were other people who are here on YouTube, they market, promote, and sell the culture, but they also indict the culture where people get put into very life-threatening situations, and he inspired me to go ahead and turn my name into a brand and monetize my lifestyle where, here it is, I wouldn't have someone treating me like a commodity and telling me, hey, you can come work for me, but you're worth only $8 an hour at this establishment. And I saw what he did with his brand, but I also saw what he did with the lives of the people he cared about. He elevated all of his friends. He gave them an upgrade that they would have never had if it weren't for him. He took his friends to Europe. Most people, most black people in this country don't even leave the city that they live in. They don't even travel 5 or 10 miles outside of the proximity of their community. And a lot of it is because of being economically disenfranchised. But Nipsey Hussle did that. And I saw, in his community how he cleaned it up. All the older guys, the OGs, he gave them jobs. His sister, she has her own makeup line. Like, everything was okay. Hey, create a brand. Whatever it is you want to do, you create a brand, you monetize your brand, you own it. Have ownership of everything you do. And he spoke a language that no one spoke to us. Like Jay-Z was someone that's influential. Sharp Puppy Combs, they were influential. But these people didn't have good business relationships with a lot of the people that came into contact with them. Everyone had a horror story where they were getting fucked over. And it was still that same European relationship where it's like, okay, hey, I'm the master, and hey, you're the slave, and you're here to make money for me, but I'm not here to make money for you. And you know, Nipsey Hussle changed the narrative. You know, like he said, he's like, I didn't go to school. I dropped out of school. I just read a few books and I hustled. And I always say, you know, the narrative needed to be changed because, you know, I think growing up for a person like myself, you know, I always viewed my mom to tell me the truth and not take anything from her, but I think the collective narrative that was inherited over time was like a true lie. It's like, hey, go to school, get a good job. That's not enough, because at the end of the day, you know, hey, here it is, yeah, you come out of college, the average college student is coming out of college to, you know, get an entry-level position to make $40,000, but you have over $100,000 in student loans. That just does not add up. So Nipsey Hussle changed the narrative. He changed the life of himself, his family, his friends. He changed the whole demeanor of the community. You know, he recently passed, and many people were first saying, hey, well, they should have killed the guy that killed him. And, you know, my first initial thought was, the people that come from that hostile community had a moment of relief. They were relaxed. There was no need for any guns to be in that plaza because it was a community. It was a healthy community now. It was a functioning community. And he did something that totally unorthodox. Like, he was really a genius. He was a king. And it's unfortunate that we lost him, you know, at a time like now. Like I said, you know, this generation, we don't have moguls. We have Jay-Z, we have Sean, we got Diddy, we got Dame Dash, but those guys kind of, like, their era is past. They're still around, but they're not appealing to these younger kids. And the younger rappers right now, they're on the internet, they're making songs, but they don't have ownership of their music. They're not really moguls. He was one of none in this generation. And I definitely am going to miss him. I love him, you know. He was a brother of mine. I didn't know him, but with two of the same kind from two different coasts, if I was living in California, in his neighborhood, I probably would have been banging 60 Crip, or I would have been with some other gang faction. You know what I mean? The struggle is universal. So he spoke to my struggle because we had the same background, you know. My father wasn't an immigrant, but my grandfather was an immigrant. And I noticed the immigrant struggle when people have to come to this country and they have to work 3-4 jobs just to create an income that's relative to someone who is native of this country who only works one job. So, you know, when he was telling his story, you know, I could definitely relate to him in many ways. Like I said, two different coasts, but they had the same upbringing, same struggle, and had to go through some of the same journeys of pain to create some kind of outcome of pleasure where we would have peace at the end of the day. But I just want to say, Nipsey Hussle, my brother, rest in peace to you, to your family, your friends, and all your immediate loved ones. My prayers, my love is with you all. I wish you nothing but strength, and you know, in this time, peace, and nothing but positive vibrations. That's what we need. We don't need anyone going out, you know, creating any type of extension of violent acts that have already taken place, that have removed the king, you know, from our presence, you know. But yeah, I'm gonna leave you all with that. But until the next time, peace. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, Debo the Don TV. Like, comment, subscribe, share.